message to the billionaire class: you can't have it all.
This is what democracy looks like. Looks like. Wow, I just completely ruined that intro, guys. But welcome, everybody. This is the evolution of now. I am joined here today with my good buddy, Jordan. How you doing, Jordan? How's everything going over in Jordan land, huh?
Oh, man. Jordan land is beautiful right now.
It's fantastic.
It's fantastic, man.
Yeah,
entry for one, only one entry. I guess, things are doing okay. How's everything going with you, Mike?
Oh, yeah, he's here.
I decided to round robin this.
I'm just here not stuttering my intro.
Wow. Shots fired. Wow. Jeez. Can't win with these guys, man. It's terrible.
God, that was a fail, Chris. That was a fail.
It was a fail. It was sad. I should go cry.
You're not an alpha male, Chris. You're a beta. You're a beta. Beta.
Okay. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the news this week. There's a big-ish story that's been going around this week. Big-ish. I mean, it's only been covered all week, I suppose. The constant, unraveling of the Trump president's administration in the wake of an event that happened in Virginia. And that's what our main focus is going to be today, ladies and gentlemen. So there's a lot here now that I butchered that intro, but let's work on this. Let's get right into this story. So over the weekend, last weekend really, there was a KKK rally that happened in Charlottesville, Virginia, and this protest was around an event that was about to happen there. There was a Robert E. Lee statue there in Charlottesville that was scheduled to be taken down, I believe, and the Unite the Right people held a giant rally there with I've seen estimates of about 1,000 right-wing people showed up to it. Friday night was the first night, I believe, that it started. And you would be shocked that the right wing had some interesting flags in their midst. But they, on Friday night, I guess they didn't have as many flags on Friday night. It was more Saturday and into the weekend that they were really flying the flags. But Friday night, they decided to have a beautiful, nice, peaceful march around Charlottesville with tiki torches. Now, it was interesting. I mean, torches in large mobs of people, that's totally peaceful, right? What do you guys think about that? Doesn't that sound peaceful to you?
There's no precedent at all for large mobs of hard right-wingers calling for reintroduction of slavery, holding torches. I mean, it's never happened in history before.
Now, hold on. They weren't actually calling for slavery. Let's not say that. They were only just saying that Jews will not replace us. I mean, you will not replace us, right?
No, I think just millions of people heard it wrong. That's just it. Yeah, we thought they were saying Jews, but
now,
it was just us.
I probably should have clipped some of the chanting. This week I just couldn't do anything. The news this week was just an ever beating drum of just depression. I had to keep it at like an arm's length to get through this week, I think. But oh man,
yeah, it was grueling. It was just so disparaging. Especially, it wasn't even just this weekend. I think it was this weekend, including the rest of this whole week, because of Trump's impromptu news conferences where first he's against the white supremacists, then he's saying, hey, but they weren't all bad, and let's not forget that the quote unquote alt left are also responsible for the violence that occurred at the rally. And so yeah, it was just like this whole it's almost as if he couldn't dig himself a deeper grave than,
Yeah. Didn't he first come out and say, like, there was violence on many sides?
Many sides, all sides,
Yeah.
all sides are
and
bad.
you're like,
Oh,
what
totally,
sides?
totally.
There are Nazis and there are not Nazis.
And
There are no
the
sides
only
here.
well, let's get to it. On Saturday, there were protests. We obviously had the right wingers, the 1,000 right wingers with their colorful flags, marching around Charlottesville, and then there were counter protesters that were. Some of them were Antifa, which are anti-fascist movement
Correct, yeah.
people, and just general people from the left were there as well.
And the right. I mean,
All right, yeah,
everyone is anti-Nazi.
I suppose. And well,
I mean, you
we
would
didn't
think
get
that'd
to that
be-
part yet, but
You would think that would be everyone's default position, but unfortunately,
yeah. And like you just said, though, they're Nazis. What were Nazis doing there? Well, like some of those flags that were really colorful and really nice that the right wingers were flying. There were a few different Confederate flags, and then a very prominent flag that was flying quite regularly in those crowds of these right wingers. The Nazi flag.
Totally, yeah.
Strange.
Swastikas.
Now, I remember this guy named Dinesh D'Souza, maybe? Is that his name?
D'Souza.
D'Souza. I like D'Souza better, because he is D'Souza. But he wrote this really interesting book about how the left is tied to the Confederacy and the Nazi movement in Germany. It's weird that the right-wingers that showed up to this rally are flying the Confederate flag and the Nazi flag. I don't remember seeing a single American flag out of all of them.
Well, people like Dinesh and say Ian Coulter and there's another person on top of my mind too. But they
Bill
make,
O'Reilly?
Bill O'Reilly and Glenn Beck, they make a living off of telling conservatives what they want to hear, and
Fox News,
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, there's no surprise that some of these accusations that are hurled at liberals are so out of whack, and that's just because they have no basis in reality, except it's just everything that right wingers want to hear, and so they're going to pay for it and they're going to support it. So
yeah,
Confirmation bias.
totally.
But I mean,
At its finest.
to give them even a modicum of credit, which they don't deserve, historically, back during the Confederacy itself, yes, the Democratic Party was the party of the Confederacy. But the thing that these right-wingers don't seem to get is that the parties have dynamically shifted themselves.
Totally.
Entirely. Yeah, I mean, at that point, the Democrats were the states' rights people that, thought that states' rights supersede all other federal law. And they also were for slavery. And
Yep.
some might call that conservative. Now, who are the conservatives today? Well, they're the guys that are for states' rights, right? That's really strange, isn't it? Isn't it strange?
I know it. Yeah, absolutely.
It's so weird how that works. Now, the parties themselves may have shifted. One shifted to the left and the other to the right.
Not to mention, that argument from history is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Which party now is better for whatever the subgroup is?
Exactly.
That's the real question.
Absolutely.
I mean, 300 years ago, this party was against black people. Well, okay, but now they're better. So,
yeah,
who cares?
And even if we go further and say, well, Jim Crow laws, yes, that was the Democrats as well, honestly. To be very fair, that was back in the early 1900s. The Jim Crow laws were the Democrats. Mm-hmm. But the shifting point was the civil rights era in the 60s. And once LBJ fought for and actually ultimately passed the Civil Rights Movement, or the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, the Democratic Party had a massive shift to the left, and all of the racist white people that were still in the Democratic Party at that time got so pissed off that had happened that they swapped parties. They went over to the Republicans and just took that over whole cloth with this little thing that you might remember hearing about called the right, or the Southern Strategy. And that happened over a few decades.
Yeah. And I think that accusation saying, Democrats represent this, the Republicans saying that, I think it falls on deaf ears because, rhetoric and platform determines what a party stands for. And you can clearly see how the Republican Party has now adopted the language which certain Democrats have had back in that era.
States' rights.
So,
proof is in the pudding, really, because if it was working, you'd get more minority groups voting for Republican, and they really don't.
Yeah.
Absolutely, period. Yeah. Yeah, why? You do, and I'm sure they have internal discussions about this in the Republican Party, but just on a public forum, just ask yourself exactly why aren't minorities and women siding with the Republican Party, voting along those lines? Why are they only sticking to the Democrats time after time after time after time? And so, like I said, you can tell by the rhetoric used in the platforms of both parties as to why they do side with Democrats. But yeah.
It's quite interesting. Like the only thing, like I said already, the only thing I can really just easily point to and just completely destroy the argument that the right is somehow not associated with the Confederacy is literally, like we've been saying, their positions. And it's that whole states' rights thing. Who was the advocates of states' rights during the Civil War? That was the South. The Southerners, the Confederacy. The Union wanted a little bit stronger federal government, and the Southerners, the Confederates, freaked out, and because what they saw with the election of Abraham Lincoln was that ultimately slavery was going to eventually get destroyed, and it was going to be abolished. Now, going into the history, I've read up on it a bit, and Abraham Lincoln was not actually advocating to end slavery at all. He was very much afraid of the topic. And it was more the radical left of the Republican Party at the time that were really pushing for abolition of slavery. And when the Southern states and the Confederates seceded from the Union was when Abraham Lincoln eventually was like, you know what, screw this. Fuck it. We're going to abolish it, because, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to take on the historical context, but I do kind of want to steer slightly back to August 12th, which is when the rally took place, because I just want to kind of go over some of the instances which occurred. So, and just give a little bit more context. So actually, right now in America, it's a contentious topic right now surrounding commemorative monuments dedicated to the Confederacy.
Let's just call them what they are: racist fucking monuments. Let's just say that. Yeah.
That were built to paint an incorrect image of the Confederacy. Yeah.
Yeah. But they are commemorative. Like, unfortunately, that's their purpose. And commemorative is kind of like, I mean, and obviously it's looked at with rose-colored glasses. Except specifically in Charlottesville, there was a vote in which determined that they were going to take down the Robert E. Lee statue in the in the center of Emancipation Park, which also got renamed to Emancipation Park. Got renamed from Lee Park, which named after Robert E. Lee, to Emancipation Park, which it is now referred. So on the heels of that, of course, like, the white nationalists and the Nazis and the neo-Nazis and the quote unquote alt-right, and they banded together and decided to march in opposition to those changes. And actually, there's someone in opposition who actually countersued that verdict, and now it's in stasis right now in terms of like when the move is going to happen. And proceeding on that case. So yeah, it's, and let's not forget, of course, unfortunately, it turned bloody. It turned viciously violent, with the death of Heather Heyer and about 30 others injured, after a vehicular attack from a self-proclaimed Nazi on that day. We're starting to see them mimicking the same terror that they hate so much from groups like ISIS and Al Qaeda. Terrorism is terrorism, and you clearly see that because, like with the recent attack in Barcelona, they used the same tactic as this self-proclaimed neo-Nazi did on anti-racist protesters. So yeah, that kind of, that correlation, I think that's really interesting, to discuss. So.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite interesting that they're using tactics very similar to the people that they are like diametrically opposed to, they say, at least.
It's remarkable how similar ISIS and white nationalists look. Basically, drag and drop, like, the skin color, and you've got the same organization, basically.
Mm-hmm. I can't understand what the fundamental similarity is. I just can't get it. I don't know what it is. I don't know. It's so weird to me how this all works. I mean, first you got ISIS and these terrorist groups in these Muslim countries that are often referred to as extremists on the right wing of things. Mm-hmm. And then you have they're
all white wing extremists.
And then they have these white nationalists over here that call themselves right wingers.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't see it. I don't see it, guys. I don't see it.
Using the exact same attacks.
I just still I don't see it still, man.
Their recruiting methods are very similar as well.
Yeah.
In fact, at not the school I was at, but in the local area, there was an issue where essentially what had happened is one of the kids from the school had gone to college. Something had happened, and they caught him at the Turkish border. Wow. A kid at like one of the schools near where I was working. And what had happened is he'd been on the internet, disaffected youth, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Been on the internet, seen a meme sharing some sort of Islamic propaganda, the ISIS propaganda, shared it. The person who made the meme got a notification saying it shared it, checked out their Facebook profile, said, oh, this person looks like it could be, a target. Then they spoke to them, and that's how they'd gotten into started on the radicalization.
But you're leaving out a very important part. There's these new things.
White nationalists do the exact same thing, the exact same tactic, and we've been warned about that from safeguarding.
But I think there's a special little other instrument that the Muslims have. You know,
You got Muslimic rape gangs nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, there's those Muslimic ray guns. I think those might be in force actually in the UK. Actually, that might be what happened.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you have this patriot over here saying stuff like,
I want Britain to be back British.
you know, I mean,
You got the soundboard for the the British white nationalists. This is proof. Not everyone with a British accent sounds clever.
yeah,
These guys are fucking stupid.
English Defense League was what they were calling themselves.
Yeah, that's what they call themselves.
Oh man, they were
English Defence League.
they were fun people.
So,
Fucking hell.
following the attack over the weekend, though, there hasn't been there's been plenty of outcry ever since then, especially following Trump's news. Was it 3 news conferences or was there 2?
3?
At least 3.
Yeah, I believe, and they were all impromptu. It took him 2 days to
totally
actually
impromptu. It's like
it took him 2 days to
how Alex
respond.
Jones is totally impromptu. You know.
Yeah, I like how he took a weekend off from being president and completely didn't respond to the attack that happened that happened in Charlottesville.
Well, to be
And finally
fair,
on Monday.
All he has to do is say, "Our thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families,"
Totally.
and that's it. Non-controversial. That's fine.
Mhm.
You're not really expected to do anything else. We know the government's going to.
Trump
do
can't
something
help himself.
you would
He
expect.
must keep talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially when arguably a big slew of his base, of representatives of his base, were on the side of the hate. So he overextended his involvement in this in what happened on that day. But I do have an interesting statistics which I just kind of saw, which is a CBS News survey, and it said that 55% of Americans say they disapprove of Trump's response to the deadly violence that occurred at the rally in Charlottesville and believe his policies have encouraged racial division. It's interesting, 55%. To me, that doesn't seem like enough. But also, just digging a little bit deeper, 67% of Republicans approved Trump's response, while only 10% of Democrats approved of it.
I hear there's rumors
10%
on
of Democrats approved of it.
internets.
Who are these Democrats?
Right? I mean, probably Blue Dog Democrats, Dixiecrats, people who are still like so establishment, and who there are some Democrats who I don't know. I know. What were you gonna say?
I mean, there is a possibility that there's like a troll factor where people call themselves Democrats or officially call themselves Democrats, but they're really actually voting right-wing every single election. So, I mean, there is that possibility that could be some of those people.
Oh, yeah, totally. That's a good...
I have
That's like,
the
wait,
best points.
1 in 10 Democrats said, that's a great response. I'm like, eh? It's like 3% of UKIP voted for Brexit. Yeah. But for Remain, I mean, against Brexit. Isn't that the whole point? That's a tangent. I'd note as well, one of the big things that's made me smile for this is so many of the white nationalists have lost their jobs because their employers have seen pictures of them and gone, hey, that's John. Well, he's sacked.
Yeah,
and
you
actually,
done screwed up there, John. You no longer have
them
a
losing
job.
their job has actually probably done more damage to them than any of the other public outcry.
Mm-hmm.
There's anything else you could recover from, but now they're all fucked. And there's lots of them that don't want to go to the rallies in the future because they're like, well, if I get caught, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
And the prime is like, yeah, maybe the libertarians have a point.
Yeah.
Free market.
Yeah, I mean, that is the libertarian philosophy there, you know? I mean...
Yeah, definitely. So I have some Trump quotes from his Tuesday news conference. Have you already heard this? Just cover your ears. But so it starts with quote, I think there's blame on both sides. And also famously, what about the alt-left that came charging at, as you say, the alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt? Wow. And lastly, I'm only doing the hits. Quote, you had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent. Nobody wants to say it, but I will say it right now. It's like he's saying the thing everybody was thinking. Nope.
He's so strong.
Nobody was thinking that.
He's so brave.
One of my favorites, one of the favorite things I've seen this week is it was a picture of the Normandy beach. It said, and it's just a picture of Hitler saying, "They came charging in with no permit, and they were very, very violent."
I saw that. Yeah.
Bad or sick guys.
Oh man, I've come geared with the quotes. Also, so I mean, let's be real. Even his own party, he's faced some opposition against his own party. So for Mitt Romney, even he urged Trump to apologize, saying, "quote having created a national inflection point of consequence, POTUS must apologize and repudiate the racists." Ah man, it's
as bad as the Republicans are. Most of them aren't actually Nazis. They don't mind using a bit of racism to get ahead, but they're not.
Totally.
They're not usually white supremacists in themselves. So I think even some of the Republicans are saying, "This is a bit too much."
Yeah, such a good point.
Yeah, they're still being weak as hell.
Racists. We want benign racists who will vote for us but not actually do anything. These Nazis marching through the streets a bit much.
They're still being extremely weak on this. Honestly, if you had any spine and if you had any moral moral compass and any sense of morality, they would be standing up and saying, "Get out of the office. Get the hell out. We don't want you here anymore because you are a damaged person, and you are only doing damage to our entire democracy every second you sit in that effing office."
Yeah.
I want to go like crazy over this shit, and I want to try and hold myself back a little bit, but like, it's so goddamn infuriating. This guy is done in my book after this.
Absolutely.
I cannot stand Donald Trump anymore. It was funny while it lasted, but I am so sick and tired of this man.
Yeah, big time. In his like wacky response on Tuesday, even emboldened some Democrats who were more reserved to finally speak up and suggest that Trump resign. Like oh goodness, I just had it. Inconvenient sequel.
Al
the
Gore.
vice P. Yeah, Al Gore to speak out and just say, "Hey, Trump, resign," like blatant.
Yeah. And that's what the Republicans should be doing. If they had any moral compunction, they would.
I mean, the Democrats telling Trump to resign is one thing because they're the opposition party.
Totally.
When you've got someone like that in your party, he's wrecking your reputation. You need to. The best thing for you to do now is to tell him to resign and make clear that he's not part of your party, otherwise he's going to drag you down with him. I don't know why they're being weak on this.
The problem is he is their party. His base is their party, and they've been playing around with it for decades now, and giving out what people call dog whistles. Even Ronald Reagan gave out dog whistles to the white nationalists and everything, and how these other people were coming in and taking everything from you. It's the dog whistling that they've been largely doing themselves. Even Mitt Romney, even George W. Bush, all of these people that have been in the Republican Party for decades have all been guilty of it. And now their chickens are coming home to roost with the most racist and belligerently stupid person I have ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
And he's inhabiting the White House now.
Absolutely. Trump traded in his dog whistle for a bullhorn.
True.
What you say?
That's very true. Very true.
Yeah. At this point, he's very open and honest about what his belief in white supremacy and also the markers that are placed in America, which remind us of that time, and including the monuments. But I am heartened to see the mayor of Charlottesville, Mike Signer, actually speak out and taking down these monuments. So he actually he wants the General Assembly to change the state law, which prevents certain localities from removing or altering monuments of any war or conflict. So there's already something in place right now which bars local communities from removing these statues in the first place. So he wants to bring the assembly together in order to overturn that. And he's also urging the governor of Virginia to to convene an emergency meeting, so that they can get this plan in motion. So so there, it doesn't go without some actual productive things going on in the local politics of Virginia. And actually, he has some really really good quotes that I actually pulled. The mayor of Charlottesville, and it goes after following the attack. It goes, quote, the terrorist attack. These monuments were transformed from equestrian statues into lightning rods. And he also went on to say, we can and we must respond by denying Nazis and the KKK and the so-called alt-right the twisted totem they seek. And so, for the sake of public safety, public reassurance, to magnify Heather's voice, who was, viciously murdered that day, and to repudiate the pure evil that visited us here, I am calling today for the removal of these Confederate statues from downtown Charlottesville. Mayor, also like to just add in, Mayor Signer was prior in favor of keeping the statues up, and now he has reversed that position after the attacks over the weekend.
That's what happens when you side with Nazis.
Yeah, it's typical.
Everyone hates you. Ask Italy.
Yeah, it's not easy to stay on the sides of the Nazis now, but yeah.
Exactly. They're too extreme for them.
It's been a roller coaster this entire week, and Trump did come out, like we were saying, right after the incident that took the life of Heather, and he came out with that statement you did say about both sides are to blame for this, and he even went as far as to distance himself from it. He was like, "Not Donald Trump. Not me. Yeah. I totally didn't do it." And to his credit, I guess he also said not Barack Obama either. Just, okay. Oh, yeah.
I mean, if he's still mentioning Obama this late in his presidency, I mean, come on.
The statement was sort of like, this has been happening for a long time. Not Donald Trump. Not Barack Obama. Long time it's been happening. That was the statement.
Which means basically nothing.
Yeah, really. Yeah, it's basically him distancing himself, and then trying to be like, oh well, if I'm only distancing myself from this, then it looks really, really bad. so I'll just throw Obama in there too. Thanks, Obama. But and you just throw him in there, and you see that I even gave Obama a pass. So obviously I'm not racist. But then 2 days later, after there was an uproar in social media and the news, calling Trump out for how he did not actually call out the Nazis or the right-winger extremists that were actually to blame for the murder of Heather and the injury of over 30 other people. He finally came out on Monday to say, okay, I denounce the Nazis and the fringe or right wing, and they're bad guys and blah blah blah. And then later on in the week, he can't stop himself. He goes on to Twitter and says all about there's people on both sides again. He's back to both sides, blaming both sides again, and He just can't stop. He just can't stop himself. Like, this legitimately makes me think he really is mentally, damaged at this point in some way. Like, there's something really wrong going on with this man. He just can't stop himself on these situations.
No, he can't. He absolutely can't. Also, I would like to just to shed a little bit, it's a little bit of light on Heather Heyer, which I want to point out, Mayor Signer, because she was from Charlottesville, referred to her as a martyr, which that is exactly what she is. But yeah, Heather actually, she comes from a long line of badasses. Her mother actually spoke up recently, reacting to Trump's news conferences. And I have a couple quotes actually. She says, quote, "You can't wash," we're referring to Trump, quote, you can't wash this one away by shaking my hand and saying I'm sorry. I'm not forgiving you for that." And and she also urged Trump to, quote, "think before you speak."
Yeah, her statement was powerful. I really liked it.
Wow.
Definitely.
This is the state of America these days, man.
Yeah.
So the question is, what happens next? Because the leadership's not doing anything. So is it just going to get worse? Or
that is the question. Yeah, that is the $1 million question of the day.
Well, I mean, yeah, we are seeing some shifts happening in the White House, but we will definitely get onto that. But before we go, before we move on, I just want to say, shed just a little tiny bit more light on the Heather that I kind of learned about her, and that the Heather, she was 32. She was also a paralegal for a Charlottesville law firm, assisting clients through the bankruptcy filing process. And I actually have some quotes from friends and coworkers of hers. So she has a coworker named Victoria Jackson, and she tearfully described the conversation she had with Heather prior to the rally starting. And it went, quote, "Heather said, 'I want to go so badly, but I don't want to get shot. I don't want to die.'" So Heather was obviously very concerned, but aware of the possible violence that could happen out there.
We also didn't mention actually that there was one side that brought guns to that rally as well.
Point.
Yeah.
There was only one side that brought guns, and that was the right-wing side of it.
That's right. That's
shocking,
right.
I know.
And shields and bats and things.
Right, yeah.
Shields and armor, and they were armed for battle.
Totally,
and there was a great piece from Vice that I highly recommend everyone going and looking up. It has to be on YouTube, but Vice had a very good coverage piece of this event. They actually have footage of this one guy chanting, "Jews will not replace us." Because the original chant was, "You will not replace us," showing you the fear in these predominantly white males of what they think is happening in the culture of America.
Yeah.
This guy, racist as hell, is chanting, "Jews will not replace us."
Yeah.
And he's all beating his chest, basically, about how they need to be tough and we'll kill all the lot of them on the other side to protect ourselves. And wouldn't you know it, that same guy came out with a video on YouTube crying like a baby. Oh my God, it's the most depressing thing you'll ever see. This Nazi sympathizer asshole is crying his eyes out because the cops are after him and he's going to get arrested for his hate speech and what he did that day. And he's crying. He's like, "Oh, I know the cops are going to be coming for me, and I want them to come and arrest me." And he actually gives his number out and everything. He's like, "But I'm so afraid right now that people are going to come and kill me, and so I got my gun here, and please, if you're the cops, please come and arrest me, but if you're not, then I'll probably kill you," basically. And I don't know if he said that exactly. But I mean, he's such a whiny little baby back bitch. You know, like,
Oh, yeah.
it's interesting how it's always the right wing that's saying how the left are a bunch of snowflakes and we need our safe spaces, and how we are just so weak that we cannot deal with honest, discussion on issues. And yet, they are the ones that cry the very second that they're threatened by even just the cops. The threat of being arrested is enough to make him break down and cry like a baby.
He was saying, "I think the cops are going to kill me because the cops are violent." I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah.
It's not like there's been people on one side saying that for a while, that the cops are violent.
Exactly.
I mean, this is a classic case of first they came for...
Totally.
Oh, well, now they're coming for you, and we don't give a shit.
Totally. But the truth is, are they really coming for him? Or people like him? I question that only because, like...
He has a warrant out for his... Or had a warrant out for his arrest. The cops aren't going to show up and just murder him on the spot. I think, come on.
Exactly. And it was first of all, this white supremacist, he didn't... Why he was crying is because he called up to the sheriff's office and they said they couldn't confirm whether or not there was a warrant out for his arrest. So he didn't even know if there was one out here. Just the possibility of there being one
Honestly,
had him
I think a lot of them got caught up in the rhetoric, have been spouting this shit, not knowing really what it entails. And when the rest of the world, the real world consequences hit, they're like, shit.
Exactly.
Like there was another, I don't know if it was a video or a post or something, but he was saying, please don't fire me.
Wait, there's actually a consequence for your freedom of speech?
Yeah. Wow.
The Nazi who was there wearing the red hat, the white shirt, and the khakis.
The uniform, yeah.
Yeah, the uniform. He got separated, and some of the protesters saw him, so he ripped the shirts off and like, please don't hurt me.
Yeah, I saw that.
And you're like, I think
babies.
a lot of them didn't know what they were doing, and then suddenly saw that actually everyone thinks you're a dick. That's not that, and that's actually not funny. It's really going to wreck your life.
Totally.
Yeah. I honestly, I suspect a lot of them haven't really done this outside of the internet before, outside their own little groups on the internet where there's no consequences. And then it's gone into the real world, and now there's real world consequences, there's real world things that happen, and they don't really know how to deal with it. That's what I think is going on here.
Yeah. I think to my recollection, I think this has been the largest, white supremacy gathering, rally in recent memory.
Probably in a while.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you're absolutely right. They, it's like they underestimated, the threats and the views that they've been spatting, since Trump got elected.
They've been in these groups where there's no resistance to it, and you troll someone on the internet. The worst that happens is they block you. Yeah. You do it in the real world, you get sacked, you get the police after you, you get beaten up. There's consequences, and I think it's not clicked until now, and it's clicked, and all this sort of thing. They're like, shit, I fucked up. Yeah, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah. That's such a good point. Exactly. That's such a good point, though, how they're so used to anonymity that when they finally do put themselves in public, that they received harsh blowback. And we saw certain of people who are out there, their employers, they caught whiff of their activity, seeing on Facebook, seeing pictures of them out there, and they got fired. Some families even disowned them. So yeah, look.
These aren't leftist SJWs on the internet you're trolling anymore. These are your employers and your family and your friends, and they can actually have an effect.
Yeah. Especially when you're in the public consciousness like this, and people can be like, "Hey, wait, I know that guy from math class. He's an asshole."
Quick hint: Nazis trolling the police doesn't end well.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just, man, it's such a fascinating way how in this age of information, how information just gets around, because that's never been a threat before. If, say, in the 60s, the threat of their employers and in all of who they know would catch a whiff of their activities, it would have completely changed things. I think the dynamics would have been different. Except we have that now, and it's so interesting how that's playing a part and how they may even operate in the future. It's really something to think about.
There's a lot of analogies here to Nazi Germany and the tactics they're using.
No.
But in the same sense, one, the leadership isn't there, and two, the pushback from the rest of the population is amazing. The Americans...
Totally.
There's a lot of people in the UK saying, oh, Americans, they're all horrible because of the Nazis and things. And I'm looking at thinking, the general American population has responded so well to this, and they've pushed back, they've fought it, and it's like, God, this is amazing. You should be proud of yourselves.
For once.
Also, what's interesting,
your
the largest...
shit, but God, the people are great.
Exactly.
They voted
One of the
for
largest...
this.
Exactly, they did vote for this. One of the largest publications in Germany, actually, I believe it's called Der Spiegel. Spiegel.
Der Spiegel. Maybe. I don't know. That's my impression of it.
I take it. But yeah, they actually their recent magazine cover had Trump with a white KKK mask, and this is in Germany. One of the largest publications in Germany are speaking up on this because it's too close to home.
They have been very outspoken against such extremism for a while because of what they've gone through. So it's not really surprising to me that they would be very outspoken against Trump on this.
Totally.
Being fair.
Yeah.
In the wake of, Nazi Germany and all that. Did you have something to say, Mike?
No, just saying Germany's a bit like the uncle at the moment going, oh, guys, just me. Yeah. I'm a lot older than you. I've been there. It's a phase, I know, and it just won't end well. It's not going to end well. Just try and get past it without it going too bad, okay?
Yeah.
Don't make our mistakes, son.
Yeah. This is what Trump is going to be remembered for. I mean, he had countless opportunities to speak up and take a very firm stance against these against what his supporters have been saying and doing. And I mean, even back to when he was running, there were people in his rallies saying Lügenpresse, which is what they means lying press in German. Yeah, which is very prominent in the Nazi era, which is a lot of people, tried to denounce the media because they were going to, essentially shed light on what was happening in Nazi Germany. But yeah, actually, and I actually have a question for you guys. So, and it goes back to the monuments, the monument issue. And I wonder how you guys think about this. So, should we relocate these monuments to say specifically to Confederate cemeteries, which they do exist, and museums, or should we incinerate, completely obliterate them, do away with them?
If you want to move them to a cemetery, a Confederate cemetery, that makes sense to me. Or a museum if the museums want them. If not, and they get destroyed, I don't really care. An appropriate place.
Yeah. I feel very much Indiana Jones right now. They belong in a museum! That's where they really should have been for, decades now. But,
yeah.
I don't think that it matters that they get destroyed. That doesn't really mean anything. We can put them... I guess it's really fitting if they do go to a graveyard, where their bad ideas go to die, hopefully. But, I'm totally okay with them going to museums and being able to show, yes, this
as long
was...
as they're not out there in public.
Yeah. This was a very dark period of our history. Because going back to the history for just a second, on these monuments, a lot of these were not built immediately following the Civil War. These were built in 1930s and that era, in the 1920s-ish, around there.
Well, Chris, some even as close as 20 years ago.
Really? I didn't know that part. But
and that's one of my favourites. You're erasing history by destroying statues. Sorry, when did you get your history from statues? This might explain why you don't know any history.
Yeah. I get my history from the Bible.
There's a book. Not that book. There's history books.
Yeah, there's these things called the internets as well, where there's a lot of information as well. And there's a lot of history books out there. But yeah, it's interesting. I also did a lot of reading on Robert E. Lee's history, and that's very, very interesting. The history of him is quite interesting, and I guarantee you that none of these right-wingers that are trying to defend his monument know his actual legacy and where he stood on issues. Because, actually, what was very, very interesting was Robert E. Lee came out originally against secession. He thought it was a really stupid idea, and he did not want any part of it. And at this point, he was part of the Federal Army. He was a commander in the Federal Army. And the problem that came up was that Virginia, his home state, joined the Confederacy, and in doing so, the Army wanted him to go to Virginia and fight them. And those were his family, his friends, and he couldn't do it on on those grounds. He couldn't stay with the Union because of that, and so he resigned from the Army at that point, and then was picked up by the Confederacy, and then the rest is history, as some might say on that. And he lost the war. After the war, he didn't just disappear after the war. He was around for a long time after the war as a prominent figure in the country. And what happened after the war was he capitulated immediately, and he was fine with the southern states coming back to the Union. He wanted that to happen. He wanted the Union to be stronger again, because ultimately what mattered to him was the union of the country. He didn't want to break the entire country up. Originally, he just sort of was forced into it in some ways. Now, he did own slaves before the Civil War, and that will always be a dark blight on his history. But post-war, he was very much in favor of going along with abolition and getting rid of slavery. One thing that he was still bad on, obviously after the war, that I had read on, was that he wanted the blacks to be educated, but at the time he didn't think that blacks were intelligent enough to be able to vote, so he was against them being able to vote. But as ever, he is a very complicated character. He then also went out of his way to work towards opening a lot of black schools around the South at the time. And so he did try and do what he could to get them that education that he thought they needed, even though that in itself was quite racist to think that they're not intelligent enough to be able to vote.
It's almost as if people aren't just 2D archetypes we make them out to be, eh?
It is interesting. They are not. And you would be shocked to find out George Washington wasn't the great American hero that we thought he was either. He was not a very good general. He lost many, many battles. He lost them quite decisively at times, too, and he got constantly flanked and destroyed. But he survived, and he became the President of the United States because he was the one that was standing at the end just about with all the generals. But he also has a very dark blight on his history of owning slaves as well. So, they are complicated characters, the historic figures. But
so I think what's important here is that the statues in question, they're not about the person as such.
Yeah.
They're about what he represents to the modern consciousness.
Yeah, exactly.
So he doesn't represent the actual guy. He doesn't represent opening schools for minorities. He represents slavery now.
Yeah.
Whether that was his intention or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why it should be in a museum. You know, that's why these monuments should be in museums. That's fine with me. They should totally be there. That would be great.
As long as they're not out in a public space.
Yeah.
I don't
They
really
shouldn't
care
be
what
on
happens to
public
them.
land, no. Especially not outside, like, Capitol buildings and, public parks and stuff.
Yeah.
Donate them for free to a museum and be done with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Put them in their proper context. Like, just don't have it on a university campus. Yeah.
And have them explained, like
outside a courtroom.
Explain the entire history of the Confederacy instead of it just being a monument to it.
Yep.
Do you have stuff to add, Jordan?
I don't, but if we're gonna move on, I have a pretty good segue.
We don't have much else to go on other than this big story. I mean, I guess there is an announcement that just came out today that we'll get to, I guess, at the end here. But
okay. Then in that case, I'll hold off on my segue.
I guess you could. Well, it's ruined
really
now,
curious
Jordan.
to know what this segue is now.
Just do it, Jordan. Just do it.
killing
Just
me.
get it over with. Jeez.
All right. So are we planning on speaking on Bannon?
Yeah, I guess we can get to Mr. Steve Bannon, I suppose, if you want.
I mean, it's a good segue to in terms of like this is something hateful onto someone who's also hateful.
Just get to it already. God damn it.
Okay, shut up. Okay. So it's not mine, but so Stephen Colbert just issued a tweet to Donald Trump on Bannon saying, "Congrats on removing your first monument to racism."
That's pretty good, yeah.
That was an amazing segue, Jordan.
So
It was worth the build-up.
I suppose. I guess that makes sense. So, yeah, alluding to that, Mr. Steve Bannon, there's some news afloat right now, and I think I should get some mood music here. That's not the... What? That's not the... Okay, that was the wrong song. Hold on. Here it is.
Epic fail, Chris.
Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Bannon has been fired from the administration of the president.
Oh man,
It's a somber day. What is today? August 18th, 2017. A date that will live in infamy. Wow, that was actually shorter than I thought it was. What? Wow. Okay. Anyway, I didn't listen to the entire thing before this, but anyway, so Steve Bannon gone. He's gone. We got him, guys. We got him. He's out.
down goes Bannon.
Gone. Down goes Bannon. Yeah. So Steve Bannon's been fired, and
Another one
yeah.
bites the dust. And another one down.
That was another song that I
down.
really wanted to play too, but
You should have done it. Even just that snippet.
it's a beautiful song for what's going on today. But no, I mean, yeah, Mr. Bannon gone. He's gone,
Bye-bye.
ladies and gentlemen. He is out of the building. You know,
Exit stage right.
the eagle has landed, and he is gone. Elvis has left the building, as some may say. He is promptly right back at Breitbart, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. He got fired and rehired at Breitbart immediately. Okay. So he's doing fine. I don't think we need to shed too many tears on Mr. Bannon losing his job at the White House.
Yeah, two tears in a bucket. Yeah, I actually, he almost to this very day was when he was hired by Trump. So it was actually August 6th that he was hired as Trump's advisor as Trump's senior advisor. So yeah, this is
he survived longer than the mooch, at least.
I mean, the mooch only had 10 days.
Exactly. Hold on.
I could cook. Yeah. If I cooked a pie and left it on the side, it would last longer than Scaramucci.
Well, I have a statement of the mooch before he got fired. Okay, hold on. I have to turn up the volume here for the audience.
I'm a crystal clear, transparent person. I'm far from in trouble.
And then he got fired. I'm far from in trouble.
I'm far from in trouble. And then a guy walks in just.
That would be pretty funny if there was a guy like standing in the background with like a pink slip in his hand while he's like, I'm far from in trouble. Oh man. He's like, yeah, you know about that? Yeah, you're fine. You have to leave the building right now.
Oh man.
It's sad.
That scenario is almost more hilarious than what happened to what was the God damn it. He was fired, he was doing an leading investigation on Trump's Russia connection.
Mueller?
No. Before Mueller.
Wow.
Right?
The tall guy. Yeah. I forgot.
Yes,
wow,
right.
I forgot his name already. What the hell?
Yeah, I'm having a brain fart right now.
Do you remember, Mike?
Which one, sorry?
The former head of the FBI?
Comey?
Wow.
Yeah.
What was it?
Comey?
Comey, yes,
right.
yes. Wow.
Kind of his first name.
This is sad that the British person in the room actually got it before.
I know.
Both Americans did.
I was thinking that.
We're all like, what was his name? I don't remember.
Who's the president? Well, to be fair, guys, the staff turnover in the White House rivals your McDonald's,
Oh, man. It's amazing.
Oh, man, but yeah, like...
Strong and stable, guys.
I've seen paper kids last longer than most of the White House staff.
Yeah, when it came to when it came to him, I heard he was about to give a speech, and on the nearby TV it showed that he was fired, and like him and his advisor started to laugh, and they were like, "What the fuck is going on? This can't be happening." And then somebody came up to him and was like, "Oh, actually, President Trump did in fact fire you."
The press actually leaked it to him, didn't they? Yeah.
He found out by watching TV.
Or wait, that was also Comey, or not Comey, but who was the other guy? The guy that was I don't know.
I'm bad at this game.
There was another guy that was in the White House administration somewhere that was like he was told that he was getting fired, and they didn't believe it, and they were laughing about it. But the press, actually
was
to him.
Flynn or something?
Maybe.
Oh, he
Maybe I'm remembering wrong. Maybe it was actually Comey.
Yeah, I believe you mean Comey. I think you're talking about Comey.
But yeah, I remember that. When he did the transgender ban, and he said, "There's lots of people saying, did I just get fired by tweet?"
Yeah. I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah, no, that didn't actually. Nothing came of that. The military basically said, "No," and carried on.
Yeah, all of the military were like, "Yeah, no, that's not happening, sir. Sorry."
Exactly. Well, Bannon, known as Trump's lead architect on many things, including his views on extremism, his views on nativism, and also helped pen the Muslim ban aside with Trump. So Bannon had a very strong presence in administration. Even many contribute Trump's populist messaging to Bannon, because Bannon actually came out and said that he wanted Trump to tax the rich, like to tax them an exorbitant fee.
Although it really wasn't all that exorbitant.
It wasn't as exorbitant as it should be, of course. But what's interesting is that Bannon befriended a advisor to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who told Bannon that with Trudeau he was sinking in the polls until he taxed the rich. which increased the public opinion on his approval with the public.
Policies are really popular, isn't
Yeah.
it?
So essentially Bannon, he wanted that. He obviously, clearly, he's a strategist, so he thought that he can implement that into the Trump presidency as well. And I think it could have worked. I don't know, but Bannon had a very very influential mind in this White House, and he's gone. I mean, do you think it's going to massively shift the way his team operates?
What does this change?
Exactly.
So is he going to go less populist now, or maybe?
Well,
is he going to listen to other? Presumably, he's got other advisors saying, "Stop being racist," or "Stop appearing racist."
I don't think they're going to be able to stop.
No, I think
that's the problem.
A speeding train.
Well, he seems to, from judging by the leaks, he seems to basically follow whoever's in the room last. So
yeah, that's what I have heard before. But
yeah, a really good example of that too was that I've read is so Bannon actually he took note of this, and when it came to Trump's stance on the environment, so when it came to the climate agreement, he came to Trump early and discussed this about him. But when it came closer to the day where he had to make a decision, a bunch of environmental activists were getting Trump's ear. And one thing that he learned was that if you bombard Trump with an opinion, he'll cite the earliest opinion that he received on the matter. So that's almost like a reversal on that whole idea that Trump listens to the last person that speaks to him. So
who would have thought that climate change was actually a complicated issue? No one would have thought it. Just go on.
Oh man,
sorry. My diatribe is Trump.
Yeah. But to my belief, I pretty much my assumption is that look, Bannon was providing the populist side of Trump. He was providing information so that Trump could take more of that angle and that route in terms of his rhetoric. Because of course, when it came to action, he didn't really put that foot forward. But now it's being speculated that the GOP will get Trump's ear and start to steer him into more of the the less populist side of things, kind of more traditional. Yeah, but tax cuts, the more traditional route of just slashing those taxes for the rich, when in fact Bannon wanted to increase them. So now they're saying it's most likely going to happen now that he's no longer around.
Potentially. I have one thing to say though about going forward. This is a very important statement to hear.
The era of the pajama boy is over, January 20th, and the alpha males are back.
So, the alpha males are back, ladies and gentlemen. And that was supposed to start on January 20th. We are now August 18th, 2017.
And we've got a resurgence of crybaby.
Where are those alpha males?
Nazis.
Where are those alpha males?
Where'd they go?
No, it's weird.
It's almost like the people who constantly go on about how masculine they are just compensating.
Yeah, and like we were saying earlier, that one neo-Nazi alpha male that was all about crushing the Jews and saying that Jews will not replace us, crying like a baby.
Yep.
Like a little snowflake baby. It's almost as if the right wing that's always saying that, these lefties are all crybabies and they're all snowflakes, might actually be the actual snowflakes themselves. Yeah. I don't know. And it's also very interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. One thing, how the right always says that the left are snowflakes, and then they also call us out for, these alt-leftists, they're all, they're all violent, and they're all angry, and all of that. Which one is it? Which one is it, guys? Is the left snowflakes, or are we these violent savages that you're talking about?
Exactly.
Because it's hard to be both a snowflake and a mindless savage that just fucking attacks people for no reason, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it seems that I'm seeing a lot more crying out of the right than I am of the left these days.
Totally.
Now, obviously, there's violence coming out of the right as well, because, you know, they're assholes. They're pieces of shit, some of them, you know? But that exists on both sides. They're both sides. Both sides are assholes. Both sides are pieces of shit. But left-wing people are not hitting people with cars. Yeah. They get angry and go to protest things. They're not running people over.
Every time someone said to me, Antifa are as bad as the Nazis, I'm like, well, what are the body counts? When Antifa has a body count, then give it to me. But for now, they don't have a body count, so they're not as bad. Yeah. Even if there's some attacks and there's some people beaten up, they've not killed anyone yet. So,
and that tally keeps going up for right-wing white supremacists.
Yeah.
But
so, I wanted to know how you guys feel about a certain thing. So apparently, because there was actually one tidbit about Bannon that I did want to share with you guys and just get your perspective on, because this was very interesting and very unexpected. So apparently, an article for the publication called The American Prospect. Apparently, it's a progressive publication, which I've never quite, I never quite knew before this. Bannon did an interview with them, which many are contributing to be the factor as to why Trump ousted him. Like, it was like the final straw. So I actually got a couple quotes from Bannon, and so one is Bannon actually contradicting Trump's stance on North Korea. And Bannon said, quote, "There's no military solution." So that's something that we all kind of know. But he's supposed to be with his boy, but obviously he's on this account he is not.
Yeah. I think he also even said about that, like, that if we started hostilities, there would be at least 10 million dead in Seoul after 30 minutes of engagement. So there is no military solution. Yeah.
He's very aware. Very aware. And
he's a lot smarter than Trump, that's for damn sure. And
totally.
Yeah, but my cat over there is smarter than Trump.
That's a good point, too.
Aren't you smarter than Trump, Jess? Yeah, you are.
Probably.
Exactly. But there's two more tidbits that are the most interesting, which is Trump bashing the white nativists. So, for instance, he says after the event in Charlottesville, he says, quote, "Ethno-nationalism, it's losers. It's a fringe element."
This is
he also went on to say they're a collection of clowns and that the media plays it up too much.
Yeah, and this was Bannon saying this
about white supremacists.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting.
It is.
It's almost as people aren't 2D archetypes that we make them out to be.
Strange. It's very strange how that all works out.
Yeah. He's right in North Korea, but he is a royal twat.
Yeah, that's the UK perspective that I admire out of this. He's a twat.
Well, you know, this whole thing, guys, is strong and stable. Strong and stable government is going very well for the Americans.
And apparently the UK, apparently.
Yeah, well.
A hell of a lot more strong and stable than us.
Strong and fucking stable.
Brexit negotiations are going great. Apparently one of the guys leaked a thing to the Independent that said, basically, they don't have a fucking clue. I saw a meme that said something like, Brexit is the negotiations for the undefined, trying to get the unspecified for the uninformed, or something like that. It's the people that don't know what they're doing, trying to get something they don't know what they want from some group they don't know what it is for people who don't have a clue what's going on.
Basically.
And they seem to think we can break from the EU, get everything we want, and screw the EU, they'll just cave into us and not get anything in return.
I mean, we're Britain. we're Britain about British, so I mean, obviously
did you realise
right?
Whatever negotiation we make is going to have to be mutually beneficial. We're going to have to give some stuff up. There's going to be compromise. No. Hard Brexit. No compromise. No, you're not getting this.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Scotland wants to secede, right?
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. Well, they want to stay with the EU.
I mean, I guess they've wanted to for a while, but that's another matter in total, I suppose. But
Scotland has the unfortunate position. They're like California, who has lived for a very long time under Tory leadership, and they're like, but they've never voted Tory. Very rarely voted Tory.
Yeah.
So like, fuck's sake, guys.
Yeah. Now, to wrap this all up, though, I had one thing that I found extremely, a really extremely good comparison going back to the monuments issue. If you're in favor of the monuments and everything, just think about it this way. What if someone was to build a monument at Ground Zero, 9/11 Ground Zero in New York City of Osama bin Laden? What would you be thinking at that point? Would you be okay with there being a statue to commemorate Osama bin Laden on the very ground where 4,000 people died because of Osama bin Laden? Or would you be raising holy fucking hell to remove that statue or never allow it to have been there in the first place? Honestly, what would you do at that point? And with that, I guess we should wrap it up, because that in itself is the major point on the statues that I wanted to bring up before, but I completely forgot. Now I had to bring it up now. But it's devastating. You can't refute that. What if we were to put all kinds of statues of the 9/11 terrorists all across the country, and then say, hey, well, it's our heritage. I mean, it happened in the past, so what can we do about it? Bullshit, you would say that it should stay there.
Yeah, statues don't record history.
Yeah, you would absolutely be raising holy goddamn hell to get rid of those statues, as I would. We would be right there together with you, getting rid of those statues. Of those
and if someone who put it there just turned around and said, well, we're recording history. You can't erase history. What? No, fuck off.
Yeah. But, you guys, if you think that way, you aren't thinking very hard. That's the only way, that's the nicest way I can put it to you guys. You're not thinking very hard on this. But with that, we need to wrap this up. I mean, we're a little bit over an hour now. As per usual, But thank you everybody for listening to our show this week. We are on iTunes now. I've mentioned last week you can find us searching The Evolution of Now. You can like us on Facebook, like our page on Facebook. Maybe eventually I'll start doing a little bit more with that page. I haven't really been doing much with it, but it's at facebook.com/The Evolution of Now. If you guys really like our show, we really, really hope you can help us out by donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/The Evolution of Now, because it really will help us be able to do more content, make this thing better, make it bigger, grow our audience in some way. We're still looking into how we can do that. But, yeah, I mean, we really appreciate everyone that listens in and donates and who even gives us feedback. If you want to give us feedback, send it to our email address at theevolutionofnow@gmail.com. We really want to hear from you guys. We haven't gotten a whole lot. We got a little bit, like one. But I mean, it's coming. But anyway, guys.
It's one more than I expected.
Yeah, right. It was one. Let's not be beat around this bush. It was one person emailed us, and I think it was just comment. Because I was begging people to do it. But But with that, guys, thank you so much. You have a great week. Hopefully this next week will be a lot better
Oh,
than
God.
the previous one.
It can't get worse. Well,
It can't get worse, can it? Don't say
You
that.
would think.
Don't
You would
hold.
think.
Don't
my
say
floor's
it.
made of wood. My floor is made of wood. It's fine. But holding on to this wood.
It's probably fake. It's probably like that. I don't know. I don't remember what they call it.
No,
The fake wood stuff.
it's laminate, isn't it? The
like
chair
fake
leg's wood,
news.
so
Yeah.
I'll hold on to this chair leg, as I say. It can't get much worse.
Oh God! You've doomed us all now. You
Next
realize this, right?
This is next week. We'll open it. This is the evolution of now, reporting from the nuclear shelter.
World War III has commenced, and China and North Korea have bombed the entire Western Hemisphere. And
Good news. After Brexit, Britain was so irrelevant, no one bothered with it.
by the way, you can send donations to my house here in the form of food and maybe gas masks, ammunition, maybe. Anyway. Well, if that happens, you'll hear from us next week. And with that, thank you guys. Have a great one.
Have fun.